Welcome to Inside West Point, Ideas that Impact. I'm Brigadier General Shane Reeves, the Dean at the United States Military Academy at West Point. Through a series of discussions, we will show you a different side of West Point, where we will make even our most complex initiatives accessible to broad audiences, and give you an inside view of our cross-disciplinary work which is being applied throughout the world. So this episode of Inside West Point features the famous coach and leader, Coach Mike Krzyzewski. Welcome, Coach.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here and to see you again. I've really enjoyed developing a good friendship with you over these last few years.
I could not agree more. So you have to humor me. I have to read the short version of your bio for our audience. So a standard of excellence on the basketball court, superb graduation rates for his players, and a basketball culture that was as close as family are all attributes that reflect on the man who spent nearly 5 decades as the head coach at Duke University and the United States Military Academy, Hall of Famer Mike Krzyzewski. Coach K, the winningest coach in NCAA Division I men's basketball history with 1,202 career victories, was the gold standard of college basketball coaches. Coach K established men's basketball records for most Final Fours, 13, most NCAA tournament victories, 101, most NCAA tournament appearances by a coach, 36, most games at number one in the country, 254, most weeks as number one in the country, 127, most Atlantic Coast Conference victories, 535, and most ACC tournament championships, 15. He mentored and developed 4 NBA draft number 1 selections, 29 NBA lottery picks, 46 NBA first round selections, 73 overall draft picks, all records by a college coach. But most impressive during his college career were the 5 national championships earned at Duke, 1991, 92, 2001, 2010, and 2015, that make Coach K one of only 3 coaches in NCAA history to earn 4 or more NCAA crowns. Coach K's head coaching prowess extended well beyond Duke and Army. Additionally, for 11 years, he served as the head coach of the U.S. men's national team from 2005 to 2016. Coach K orchestrated a revitalization of USA basketball in that time, leading the program to an astounding 88-1 record in international competitions and winning Olympic gold medals at the 2008, 12, and 16 Summer Games, as well as the World Championships in 2010 and 2014. A 12-time National Coach of the Year, Sports Illustrated named Krzyzewski as Sportsman of the Year in 2011. Coach K has been honored by USA Basketball 7 times as the recipient or co-recipient of the USA Basketball National Coach of the Year award. He's the only men's coach to have won gold medals at the Olympics and the FIBA World Cup, while also possessing at least 1 NCAA championship. A testament to his considerable success, Coach K is a member of the Naismith Memorial Basketball, FIBA, National Collegiate Basketball, and the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Halls of Fame. In addition to being a co-founder of the Coach K Center on Leadership and Ethics, Coach K serves as a professor of the practice of leadership at the Fuqua School of Business at Duke. The Coach K Center at Duke has directly influenced the leadership development of more than 7,500 MBA students and executives since 2004. The board chair of the Emily Krzyzewski Center in Durham, North Carolina, Coach K founded the center that has served thousands of students since its inception in 2006. From 2007 to 2009, he serves as the Distinguished Chair for the Study of Leadership in the West Point Department of Behavioral Sciences and Leadership. Coach K has been on the board of directors at the V Foundation since the beginning in 1993. Annually in Napa Valley, he and his wife Mickey host the V Foundation Wine Celebration, an event that has raised tens of millions of dollars in the fight against cancer.
I'm glad you did the short version.
That's a short version right there.
Thank you for bringing all those things up. Especially when you're talking about draft picks and whatever. You don't become successful as a coach because of you. You become successful because of us, of the people that are on your team. And I've had incredible talent on my team, to include my family team of my wife, Mickey, of 56 years, and my 3 daughters. They've been a great team.
I would agree with you on most of what you just said, but I led my son's town baseball team to 3 championships in a row. I think coaching is just innate. I don't think it's really that hard. I mean,
well, you had talent.
I have talent, right? You're in good company.
Not you personally. You were coaching. You were coaching talent.
Well, I actually should say I was the bench coach. I wasn't even the head coach. But
let's not go too deep. All of a sudden, you're way down on that bench.
So I heard you replaced the stone in your West Point ring with a Duke blue stone.
Yeah.
What made you decide to do that?
Well, it broke, and that's the first thing. We're fortunate to have a bunch of rings, championship rings. The rings I never take off are my wedding ring, which goes, and my West Point ring, and then my wife had a Duke stone put in. So when
Beautiful.
I look at this, those are my three families: the Krzyzewski family, the West Point family, and the Duke family. And so I never take those rings off.
It's not in your bio, but you were the captain of the West Point basketball team, and Bobby Knight was your coach.
Yeah.
I have to ask a few questions. So, did Bobby Knight always wear a sweater when he was the head coach at Army?
No,
He did not.
he wore sport coats, and not all the time. They were thrown sometimes.
So, did
And
he pick up the sweater tradition at Indiana?
yeah, and but I was fortunate to go to the best leadership school in the world, West Point, and then play for one of the great coaches of any sport, in Coach Knight. I got a double dose of excellence there, leadership, and then learned so much about coaching and preparation from Coach Knight.
What was he like on a personal level?
He was very demanding, and he had it where, and this was right at the start of his career,
Yeah.
and he knew that cadets, everyone was pulling on a cadet in all the areas during the day, and he wanted to make sure he pulled the hardest, so he got the best, and so, but he was amazingly prepared, and he taught the game precisely. And as his point guard, I learned, and captain my last year, I learned the value of preparation. Shane, he would always say, everyone wants to win unless you're an idiot, but not everyone wants to prepare to win. And he said the will to prepare to win is more important than the will to win. But if you put, what I then said is, if you put those two wills together, you're worthy of winning. And that's what I've used. I learned that at West Point, playing for him and going to the academy. Preparation to win, will to win, put them together. Whenever you're doing something, be worthy of winning.
If I remember correctly, he was the last head coach to have back-to-back national championships.
No, he didn't have
He
national
didn't at
back to
Indiana.
back.
No,
He should have had it in the 70s, the mid
that's
70s.
what I
The
was
one
thinking.
year I was there, we lost one game. One of our best players broke his wrist during the NCAA tournament, and they were like 35-1. And then they were undefeated
That's what I was
the
thinking.
next year. Really, in the history of men's college basketball, those two teams, if it wasn't for that one, still they're recognized as one of the greatest teams of all time. But those 2 years, it would have been undefeated in both. And how could anyone do better than that? Yeah,
When you went on to coach
right.
and saw your players to go serve at some of the highest levels in all types of different fields, but particularly the military, how has that impacted you and your approach to leadership?
I've been lucky that uh, by coaching, I got older, but the guys I coached stayed the same age. And so, no, it keeps you young. What happens is you have to keep adapting, and especially in how you communicate uh, with your players. It's on the leader uh, to communicate his or her message. And I've had to change in how I communicated with my teams 15, 20 times
Mm.
over the years, because society changes, music changes. Uh, Examples of people that you would use are outdated, and how you dress. I tried to keep in touch with my former players along the way, and learn, be on their journey a little bit. Uh, Probably the player that I kept the closest with, who played for me at West Point, was General Bob Brown. I left his junior year to come to Duke, but we never we never lost sight of one another, and we would study leadership for over 4 decades together. So a lot of the leadership values that we that embody our program here are the values of the United States Army also.
Were you surprised when he started to make these really high ranks in the military, all the way up to 4 stars?
Obviously, no, but I couldn't tell him that. What I would say, Bob, like it's amazing that, basically the military, we think of defense. And as a player, that was never on your mind. And so for you to attain that level of excellence in leadership is amazing, really. It's just amazing to me. Yeah, what a great man.
He
What
is.
a
He's
great
wonderful.
man.
So from 2007 to 2009, you served as the Distinguished Chair for the Study of Leadership in our Department of Behavioral Sciences and
Right.
Leadership. Thank you for doing that, sir. Where in that time, you stood up a Distinguished Leader series, among other things. So can you tell us a bit about your inspiration for that series and the other work that you focused on during that time and even since?
Yeah, well, it was an honor to do that. I think all the time it was someone in the military, like General Shinseki was the one just before me, and he was a friend. I became friends with him, and he's the guy that asked me, "Would you do that?" I said, "Well, I can't come up there and teach. I'm coaching." And he said, "Well, so maybe I can do this a different way." So basically, during my time, I developed like a speakers, to bring civilian speakers in to the academy, and it would give what I learned from being in that community. There are many good leaders. Yeah, you don't have to be in the military to be a great leader. And maybe if the cadets could learn from other leaders, other forms of leaders. And that's about the same time I started working really serious with our Fuqua School of Business. And we developed a leadership program during that same time that has now become the Center for Organizational Leadership in our Fuqua Graduate School of Business. So I really kind of delved in. I took a dive into the deep end of leadership, and it was an honor to do that, and brought some really good speakers to the academy.
How do you see the value of studying leadership from an academic pursuit, not simply through lived experience or through observation, but really studying and listening to those who either have the experience or literally looking at some of the theory of leadership? Like, why do you think that's so important?
Well, to me, leadership is the best profession in the world. It transcends every aspect of our society, whether you're the head of a corporation, the head of a restaurant, the head of a team, the head of a unit. Leadership is there all the time. Where do you get a major in leadership? Uh, at West Point.
That's right.
There aren't schools that give a major in leadership. And what schools try to do is have leadership become a component of the total thing that they're teaching. I've majored in leadership my whole life. I've studied leadership since I was 18 and a plebe. I didn't know I was studying at that time.
Right.
Really, for 60 years now, and I continue to learn about it. It's an ever changing. It's a people. It's a people position. It's a communication position. It's a preparation position, and uh, I'm fascinated by it. I'm still at 78, incredibly curious about how to do it even better and how to do it in this society right now. And depending on what unit or what company you have the honor to lead, you have to keep adapting and keep getting better. And I've loved it.
Where do you see the importance of character in leadership?
Yeah, well, character is the most important part of leadership, because character is really the values that you're trying to have your organization own, not just look at and put on T-shirts and whatever, but own them. And values never change. How you teach them, how you get them across to your team changes. So our 7 values and our basketball program at Duke were integrity, respect, everyone is important. Courage to say or do, not just physical courage, to say or do what needs to be said or done at the moment it needs to be said or done. Selfless service, loyalty, duty, come and do your work, and trust. When I was 18 at West Point, I've learned some very valuable lessons. One was they make the cadets fail, like put them in positions that they can't handle. And then they have to figure out how to do that either individually or as a team. And that's where the mantra that I think is part of West Point: failure is not our destination.
It's a
You
great
know,
line.
no matter what. But the answers that you had as a plebe, yes, sir, no, sir, no excuse, sir. The no excuse it's been a building block for me because at 18, instead of putting my excuse hands, oh, you can't believe, Shane, what happened, like you're talking about what just happened. By no excuses, you become solution oriented. So when something happens, you're not thinking of an excuse, you're thinking of a solution. What a tremendous, I didn't know that that was going on at that time. And that's been the single biggest standard of every team that I've coached: no excuses.
You're exactly right. When we are teaching cadets and developing cadets, one of the things that is an intentional effort is a cadet will be pushed in a area that they're uncomfortable. And
Uncomfortable.
I say that West Point has a kryptonite for every cadet, and that's intentional so that they learn some resilience and
Or
how,
more than
or
that.
more than one. That's right.
Can I mention one more thing about the academy? The honor code was so very, very important and continues to be important because if, say, we were classmates, but we didn't know one another and we shared a class together, and you would say something to me afterwards, I would believe you
That's right.
and you would believe me. And I get chills thinking about that. Like I said, I have to replicate that in the units, the teams, and so that I have the honor to lead. And so two of my standards were always: when we talk to each other, we look each other in the eye. And the second one, we always tell each other the truth in a moment. And what happens is you develop one of those values, trust. And I call it the speed to trust. How quickly will I believe you? And how quickly will you believe me? And if you develop the speed to trust on your team, man, you have something remarkable, really.
And if you want to lead an elite organization, you better have that speed to trust.
Speed to trust. And obviously in the military, on the battlefield, or in these situations that our military is involved in, you need it, the truth in a moment. I have to trust you, you trust me. Not have to, I do. It's not my duty to trust you. We've developed this relationship where we do. And to me, that's probably the biggest thing I learned at West Point. These value-driven organizations built on trust and honesty. I call it two is better than one if two can act as one. And boom, let's act as one.
As the dean, I often think about how we ensure West Point is continuing to fill the critical needs for our Army, our nation. When you think about the study of leadership, and you frequently credit West Point with instilling in you a deep respect for discipline and service, what is it that you think is so critical?
Well, one is to stay curious about leadership. In other words, don't just, leadership covers all lanes. Like if you're on a 4-lane highway as a leader, don't just stay in the right lane and don't speed and don't break laws, but go into those other lanes, like learn from leaders across the board. That's how I improved as a leader, by speaking to organizations for the Washington Speakers Bureau, by being involved with the Fuqua School of
Mhm.
Business, by coming back up to West Point to speak to the core. I've watched leaders all over and how they uh, continue to adapt because society and the environment keeps changing. The values do not change.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the incredibly interesting part of leadership is being mission accomplished, mission oriented, but to do it in a way where you not only do that mission once, but the team wants to do it again. A lot of times in leadership, you say, well, we got the job done. Well, no, that's not necessarily good leadership. It's really good leadership if the unit wants to do it again. Have you done something just to make them do it that one time? And they get tired of your, no, that happens. And you do that by creating ownership from everyone involved. And that's been the thing I've focused on for most of my career, once I learned that, and you have to learn this stuff. You have to be open to learning. Like, okay, I graduated from West Point. I know everything about leadership. It's a bunch of baloney. You're continuing to learn about leadership. In the military, the 5 years I spent, I learned so much from the non-commissioned officers.
Sure.
They were the experts. I remember Sergeant Cawthorn in my first unit, 155 self-propelled howitzers, and I'm there. I don't know hardly anything about those howitzers, even though I was at Fort Sill, and I met with Sergeant Cawthorn, and I said, Sergeant Cawthorn, you and I both know one thing for sure. And he smiled. He said, what's that, sir? I said, that you know more about these howitzers than I do. You're the chief of smoke. And he smiled. He said, yes, I do, sir. And I said, well, I think I know something about leadership. Let's teach one another. Let's have each other's back and doing it. And so as a leader, remember, you can learn from the people you lead, not just from, I'm going to go visit this mountaintop where,
Right.
someone's going to give me advice. No. And you do that by listening. A leader should not just talk. A leader should listen.
And you're also pointing out something else. There needs to be a level of humility there to say, I actually don't know. So teach me so
Yeah.
I can be the best version of
It's,
myself.
and I would add a word, vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's called being human. That doesn't mean you're saying, I don't know this, I don't know that, but eventually your group's going to say, well, what the hell do you know?
Right. Yeah.
But it's okay to say that, because the leader doesn't have to be the smartest person in the room for each thing that you're doing. The leader should incorporate the talents of everyone in the room in the accomplishment of the mission.
So the academic program at West Point is going through a major transformation, and it's really doing that to try to connect to make sure the academic program is preparing our graduates to be
Right.
successful in this increasingly complex environment. And one of the things we're noticing is the future of warfare is uncertain, very ambiguous, very complex. What would you what would be your best advice to try to prepare someone for an unpredictable environment?
West Point already does that, usually in something physical, where all the obstacle courses, the things that you have to do, and at times you fail. I think in developing a curriculum where part of it is to put them in a position where it's impossible for them, or very difficult for them, to figure it out doing something current. Whatever, you put them in a problem solving exercise, and where they have to improvise. They have to use their talents and say, we used to do it this way, or we didn't. Man, we have to do something different. I'm sure you're doing some of that already, but as much as we do physically, I think, can we do that more in the mental, in the academic part of it? Because uh, uh, a really good leader has to be agile. Like, you have to make reads. You have to be that quarterback who has called a play and comes to the line and say, "Whoa, that's not going to work right now." And they call audibles. Basically, how can we create these situations where there's an audible? Adaptability. A leader has to be so adaptable to make sure uh, that they try different things. Some of them have never been done before. An example for me, one of probably the most talented player I ever coached at Duke was Grant Hill. You know, uh, Not probably, he was. He was amazing. He was too humble. At times, I had to put him in a position where he had to improvise. I'll give you an example. The game is 4-minute timeouts, TV. Say he wasn't asserting himself at a timeout, I would say, Grant, for the next 4 minutes, every time you touch the ball, I want you to shoot it. And he'd look at me and says, what do you mean? I said, no, do what you feel. Read the situation. Don't worry about misses. Just do it. And he would do sometimes things that I couldn't teach him. But then I would tell him, I said, that was a heck of a move. He said, no, it was good. I said, yeah, now everyone thinks that I taught you that. They think I'm a hell of a coach. No, it's just a true stories, and to try to create situations because the reason they're at West Point is because they are amazingly motivated, intellectually talented, and gifted. And if you only teach them up to a certain point, you put a lid on them. And so physically, the academy has done an amazing job of taking that physical lid off. In some way, you have to keep taking the academic lid off without the fear of failure.
How do you make an organization not be risk adverse? Because I think you're exactly right. To create an innovative mindset or an entrepreneurial approach to problem solving, you have to be willing to take risk, and that risk means sometimes you're going to take steps back, or you're going to fail.
Sure.
So, how do you encourage a organization to not be risk adverse?
Yeah. And look, if you're trying something new, it's a risk.
Right.
To me, it's about having the standard, two really important standards. One is care, have each other's back. Once something happens, the other one is collective responsibility. We win and we lose together. You didn't just lose or you didn't just win. We did. Yeah. And so you try to create an environment where you're a plural pronoun team where you have each other's back. And when you aren't successful, why? There's that no excuses comes in. Let's figure out what went wrong, and not saying uh, you did this, uh, or if it's successful, I did it. Get away from those singular pronouns and have each other's back. You know, remember one of the things I mentioned, failure is not our destination.
Right.
That doesn't mean failure is not a part of the journey.
Right.
Failure is a part of the journey, but you just can't keep failing. When it does happen, it can't be blame. You have to embrace responsibility. And maybe we didn't prepare the right way. Maybe we have to be innovative and create something new. That's where newness comes in. The old, it didn't handle it the right, a successful way.
You've had these incredible experiences and opportunities to lead some of the most elite athletes in the
Yeah.
world, and they're all individually incredible. How do you build that environment when you have a number of really highly talented people on a team? How do you create an environment where they focus on the team? They take collective responsibility. They win and lose together. They're not just the best player on the team, but they're the best player. They're one of the best players on one of the best teams.
If you're really good, you want to be better. And one of the best ways to get better is to be with other really talented people. I call it talent makes talent better. Now, you have to have one goal. Like when I coached US teams, I'd say they're only going to ask you one question when this is over. And what's that? Did we win? If you say, how did you do in the 2008 Olympics? Say, well, I was the leading scorer. That means we lost. And so you create ownership. You share common ground. We always had meetings where we figured out how we were going to live together. I'll give you an example of talent makes talent better. Uh, One of the great moments in my career, obviously there's championships, but in a practice, our first practice, fast break drill, Jason Kidd, Hall of Fame guard is leading the break. Dwayne Wade's in one lane, Carmelo Anthony another, and the ball's going everywhere. Not the right place. And I said, yo, come on over here. So I bring the team over there. And before I say anything, Jason Kidd says, Coach, it's on me. I'll tone it down. This is when the great moment occurred. Two or three of the guys said, no, no, no. We've never played with anyone like you. You be you. Let us adjust to your talent. It's like the best piano player in the world is playing and saying, I can't get better. And all of a sudden, a saxophone starts playing. I can, a guitar, someone singing. Man, I'm playing that darn piano so much better with this talent. So talent makes talent better. And my guys on those US teams, a lot of times people don't coach the best talent. They use the best talent. They don't push them. They're using them, they're not developing them. And so what I found with the US team, we were developing them. They want to be coached. They want to get better. I always coached my best guys the hardest because if I coached them the hardest, everything else would come into play. And I never wanted to put a lid on my most gifted player or players. With the US team, I didn't want to put a lid on any of them.
And so, did you ever find it difficult to balance individuality and cohesiveness, or especially with those really, really talented teams with USA basketball?
We never did. And part of it, Shane, in our first meeting, I would say, uh, look, I don't believe in that expression, leave your egos at the door. Like, why would I want LeBron James to be less of himself or Kobe? So I told him, bring all your egos in and let's put them under one ego umbrella and call it the USA, and we'll rule the world. And by the way, LeBron and Kobe were going to bring their damn egos in anyway. So it was just common sense to do it. And they felt comfortable in that. And I loved coaching that level of talent. And yeah, they end up doing things that you've never seen individually and collectively if you create that type of environment.
As you know, many of the people listening to this podcast work or live in high pressure environments. How did you personally manage pressure, whether it was a Final Four or it's the Olympics? And then also, how did you teach your players to do the same?
First of all, don't be in it unless you want pressure. I mean, Kobe Bryant made the best statement. He said, pressure is an opportunity that I've prepared for. Uh, um, how are you going to have great moments unless there's pressure? In order to be uncommon or be in those uncommon moments, you're going to face things that people don't face. The key is to prepare yourself for them, both physically and mentally, to have not just practice physically, but mentally to do mental reps of fantasizing yourself being in those moments, having the imagination where it is that last shot, it is that last stop. And it's not just do it in practice, but to do it in your mind. I'm a big believer in mindfulness and doing, I call them mental reps. And so, we've won national championships. Mentally, I've been there thousands of
Right.
times.
Yeah.
Uh, and so when I'm actually there, it's not pressure. This is what I dreamed of doing. And dream is a neat word. I'm mentally prepared for it. Yeah, because uh, it can't be the first time that you're there. And if it is, there's a chance that pressure can overwhelm you.
Now, you've experienced some championship highs and some devastating losses. Probably difficult, but what was the best championship that you can
Yeah,
remember?
coaching the U.S. team is the biggest honor, and also it's against the world. The three Olympic gold medals and the two world championships are moments that, don't get me wrong, the national championships are
Sure.
pretty darn good too, but there's nothing like, you get chills. Just your team is there, gold medals around their neck, and our flag is being raised in the national anthem. Wow, come on, man. It can't get better than that.
How about what's the most devastating loss?
Our only loss, it was when we first took over the US team in 2006 in the World Championships in Tokyo. We lost in the semifinals to the European champion, Greek. And we had one really bad quarter and we lost. But by far, and we ended up winning 77 in a row after that. Sometimes you have to lose. And we changed almost everything in our preparation, international scouts, officials. We revamped everything, and we started to build a culture for USA basketball. I saw it in '92. I was an assistant for the Dream Team, the first time the NBA players were there. We had a culture, but it was the culture of the NBA. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan. They were exquisite. And they understood for the first time, and they created their own culture. They brought the NBA culture, and then we just assumed culture after that. And and then we weren't going to assume that anymore. We were going to teach it, and then replenish the tank of culture every time that we had a U.S. team compete.
Were you surprised by the excellence of the international teams, and have you been surprised how that's continued to ascend?
At first, I was surprised because I wasn't knowledgeable, and then experience. I said, these guys are good,
Yeah.
and not only are they good, they're some of them I wish were on our team. And now I work for the NBA as a special advisor to Adam Silver, so I'm at all their meetings. About 30% of the NBA is international. Our last 7 MVPs are international. And in coaching for the 11 years with the US team, I learned how good the Gasols in Spain were. Ginobili for Argentina and his group had the best spirit, and he was the toughest competitor I've ever coached against. And you learn different techniques too that the international coaches used in teaching offense, defense, and how they manage the game. It's beautiful. And I fell in love with global basketball,
Global basketball.
when I became the head coach uh, of the United States team.
What's your best advice to a young leader that has a setback? Like, how do you get yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going? If you were going to talk to someone who's had one of those moments, what would you say to them?
One, you have to believe in you. There's a lot of self-talk. When I get knocked back, I do a thing where positive self-talk, like, all right, I believe in me. And because I'm leading a team, I say, I believe in my team. I believe in my team. The second thing I do is I remind myself that I'm in control of my attitude. It's the thing that everyone on this planet has the same chance to do. They they're the ones responsible for their attitudes. I have a great attitude, and my team's going to have a great attitude. And the third thing is figure out what the hell went wrong and change it and prepare. And then the fourth is let's go. Let's go. And a lot of times by getting knocked back, by going through a procedure, you find uh, a solution to a situation that you didn't know before. But it sets the stage for taking care of that situation in the future. So again, failure and setbacks are part of you becoming better. Everyone gets beat. Everyone, when I talked about being worthy of winning, doesn't mean the other team isn't worthy of winning.
Sure.
I got on my teams the most when we won, but we weren't worthy of winning because our standards were dropping. But if we lost a really tough game against another team that played their butts off and were prepared, we tried to figure out what went wrong. But a lot of times they were just better in one thing or a couple things for that game. And so when you are set back, it doesn't mean the whole world went wrong, but something did. And so take the responsibility, figure it out, and then use failure as a means to propel you to become better. Don't fail too many times, though.
Yeah. Now, you've mentored many players who become great leaders in their own right. What do you believe makes someone coachable, whether it's in sports, in the military, in business, in life? What's if I'm a young person who's trying to get better, what's the traits you look for that makes them a coachable person?
We tried to recruit talent, people who would fit our environment. And the third thing was the equivalent. It was same status. Was what character did that person have? How was he with his teammates? How was he in school? Who were his friends? And then how did he interact with his parents? I always tried to recruit talent with character, not talented characters. It's a big no. It's a big
it
difference.
is.
And so when people say, "Boy, you developed these guys," they were already been on a good family team. They had been coached. They whatever. And then we added, and Duke added to that. So and to let them know that just as they were developing as uh, basketball players, they're developing as people. they're becoming men, and to help them on their journey. That's why I love coaching college. I was able to cross a lot of bridges with them, bridges of improvement. The U.S. team, they already crossed a lot of bridges. We just crossed the bridge of winning championships together and getting better. I love that journey of education and what I learned from my associations with all these great young men who became really good men, and some of them really outstanding players.
So let's switch gears with some rapid fire questions. These are fun. Answer them with the first thing that comes to your mind. So here you go. I know that General Dempsey is a good friend of yours and
Yeah.
also teaches at Duke, but he was 5 years behind you at West Point. So was his class a lot softer than yours?
Of course.
Yeah, that's
Of
what
course.
I think.
I mean, there's some things that don't need to be said.
Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm really an early bird. I used to be an early bird and a night owl when I coach, but I go to sleep real early.
Would you watch film at night?
Oh, in the cabinets right behind you, I have every practice plan I wrote for 47 years. Every night I would write a practice plan, and I called it preparation, and watch tape, and so that I was prepared.
How many hours a week do you think you would spend when you were coaching?
Countless. You never counted the hours. I did what I loved my entire life.
That's great.
The hours of preparation, it's not like you're doing something you hate. You're preparing to do something you love. And you have to learn to love that process of being prepared. Otherwise, won't be successful. And I embrace that.
What was your favorite pregame meal?
I went into character on game days. Uh, you know, I believed that I was going into a fight, and I didn't want to talk to people that day. I ate a little bit, and I wanted to be ready to punch and get punched, but punch more than I got punched. And a lot of times now when I speak, people look at me and think of the guy on the sideline, and that guy was very competitive and prepared. But I have a great sense of humor. When I speak, if I tell from 1 to 10, if you graded a joke as a 3, it's a 10 for me because the audience said, "Oh, I didn't know he could tell a joke." Actually, my best friend of all time, Mo, he's been my friend for 70 years. He said, and I'm Mick. I grew up Mick, not Mike. He said, "Mick, you think you're funny?" I said, "Mo, I am funny." He said, "You're not funny." I said, "Yeah, my jokes are good."
Who's the most inspiring leader you've ever met?
My mother. She came to work. I never knew my mother, and she wouldn't think of herself as, but she's the leader of our family. And she showed up every day. I never knew she was sick. And I never knew, not that we were poor, but we were low income. I never knew that. She was able to teach all the values, everything. I don't know how we got private education based on what she and my dad made. And no, by far, my mother's the toughest and best leader.
She was probably so happy when you got into West Point, not because from no other reason than it was going to be a free education.
She's the one responsible for me going to West Point. I was an all-state guard. Coach Knight came to recruit me at the end of my senior year, and I was thinking of going to Creighton or Wisconsin. And when Coach Knight came in and came to our house, after he left, my mom and dad said, "You're going to West Point." I said, "You're crazy. I'm not going." And my mom said, "That's where presidents go." I said, "Ma, I don't want to be a president. I want to be a point guard." So I told Coach Knight no. And for 2 weeks, we lived in a flat, 2-story building. Relatives lived on the first floor. We lived on the second floor. And everything was done in the kitchen. And my parents spoke Polish when they didn't want me or my brother to understand stuff. And every night for 2 weeks, if this was Polish, da 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 da, stupid, da 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 da. No, this is true story, Mike. And I said, "I'm not going. I'm not." And finally, after 2 weeks, I said, "I'll go." And somehow I got it. I was still able to get in. Shane, I call it the best decision I never made. None of this would have happened unless my mom uh, wanted something better for me, believed in me, and I trusted them. All qualities, all things that don't cost any money. But if you're on I was on a great team. I didn't know it. It was called the Krzyzewski family team.
Yeah. You probably, though, your whole plebe year were like, they tricked me.
I would say that there are a number of times I thought of leaving West Point.
Sure.
And, but I was part of the Krzyzewski family. And again, if you were alone, that's why one of the things of being a really good leader, don't be alone. Leadership can be very lonely. Make sure you have good people around you, good people supporting you, good balance. My two balance things are, I call them my two F's, family and faith. They're there all the time. You're never alone. And, and it helps you be strong in those moments where you question whether you're good enough, whether you can handle something well enough, because you are. But at times you don't think that. You have to be balanced.
What was your biggest superstition or ritual before a big game?
I wouldn't call it a superstition. I had a way of doing. I would pray. It really
Yeah.
soothed me. And I'm Catholic, and I would offer the game for something. Offer it up. Sometimes for someone who had just passed, someone who was sick, and that person's name became a mantra for me during a game. If I got weak, like say it was for my mom, I think of Emily. It put me in a really good place before every game.
When you're not coaching, where's your favorite place to watch it? Any
No.
game in any arena
Oh, in an arena?
or anywhere, actually.
No, in my house.
Your house?
Oh,
I was going to say, I thought it would be where you sit now in Cameron.
no, I don't like, because of all the phones and cameras, and I can't react.
Ah,
I'm
so you have to sit there stoically.
stoically, even though at times, what the hell are you doing? Or an official, come on, man. You can't, and I can't. Now, if I was coaching, I could do all those things. So privately, I still do those things. And I do them not just coaching, watching Duke games, but we have 10 grandchildren. We're streaming one of their games. But if I'm in a gym, I always have to keep my mouth shut.
It'd be a really great scene is if you went to one of your grandkids' games and Coach K was screaming at the high school ref or whatever. That would make some news.
That can't happen. I'd embarrass even though, believe me, there are hundreds of times I've wanted to do that. And like this past year, I saw more JV basketball games than Duke games in person. But that's a cool thing. We have a great family.
One book you recommend to every leader?
The ones we wrote, first of all.
Sure.
Leading with the Heart is a great book, especially the way Don Phillips organized it for me. But I think books on leadership from a variety, not just in your lane, to understand the thought processes that leaders go through in different places. I like to watch leaders. I'm a big person on body language. One of the things we learned at West Point is to strong faces, no matter what. And we also learn speak to action in those moments that you didn't feel as comfortable. Speak strongly, look strong. Actually, it's two of the things I tried to teach my U.S. teams. Show poise, strong faces, good positive talk on the court. And it works. It really works and helps you get in control over a situation when it looks like you may not be in control.
Well, Coach, again, thank you so much for taking the time today to be on the podcast. This has been an absolute blast, and I truly, truly appreciate it. So thank you for taking the time. To our listeners, be sure to tune in next month for another episode of Inside West Point, Ideas That Impact. You can find this podcast and other publications of the West Point Press at westpointpress.com. Until then.